Good morning. Get some lights on. There we go. Okay, how's everybody doing? Right, just doing my usual routine of waking up. But today today we're talking about boredom. Hi Nova, good to see you on here. Hello Graham. So yes, boredom, it's a big thing. Often I find myself getting bored and just spinning my wheels, repeating the same stuff over and over again, till eventually I do something about it. But we don't want to get bored because, for me, music is and has been so far a lifelong thing. And what I've done is I wouldn't say being prepared, but I gave it a little bit of thought today rather than just going off the top of my head. And I just put I've got 10 things I'll talk about, a list. Maybe I'll get through them all. Maybe not, but so I'm going to talk about the potential ways we can bust boredom. So the first one is changing your environment. I'm going to talk about experimenting with new ideas, set creative challenges, collaborating with others, taking breaks and diversifying interests, seeking inspiration, keeping a sketchbook, a journal, learn and study, and mindfulness and meditation, and physical activity. So there we go. There's a few things to bust boredom. So I'm just hanging around to see if there's anybody else who is coming on here. Is there anybody else out there? Oh, there's Tim. Hi, Tim. Good to see you on here. So, what's the date? It's the 16th of January. And I've still got, after this week, we'll be halfway through my list of talks. Yeah, it's absolutely freezing here. I'm in my basement. I've put the heating on in the house, and it's cold. I've got my jacket on. I thought I'd wear my leather one to try and be cool at this early time in the morning. I'll tell you what. I'll stop the draft. You see. So yeah, it is cold. Right, it's minus 14. I don't do Fahrenheit. I wonder what that's in centigrade. Here it'll probably be about, I reckon it'll just be about 0, maybe -1 at most. 7 degrees. Oh, that's summer in Oklahoma. It's -1. Yeah. Hey Zed, hello. Summer. I'll be out my t-shirt in 7 degrees. Yeah. Yeah. Us British, we do complain about the weather, but then again, we kind of put up with sort of rubbishy weather. Thing is, with our weather, it's never like bad weather that's good weather. It's always just awful. It's wet and damp most of the time. That's the thing. It's demoralising and grey and just miserable. It's never like, if it's cold, it's not like lots of snow and like just freezing and snow and everything looks great, or like really, really hot. It's wet and damp, or in the middle. Right. Gramps, it's freezing, 16 degrees Celsius. That's really warm, that. I mean, when it's 16 degrees, I'm like, wow, summer's starting, everybody. 16 degrees, I've been to the beach and got in the sea and gone for a swim in 16 degrees. Minus 25 degrees is just ridiculously cold. That's like dangerous. That's where your limbs are freezing and fall off, isn't it? Anyway, boredom. So boredom. How do we beat boredom? Because this is one thing that does happen, and one thing that you'll be aware of that happens all of the time, especially when you start getting a little bit of success. And when I mean success, not making like millions of pounds and stuff and all that kind of stuff, but success with your music. So, like with me, when I kind of did my first release, second release, third release, fourth release, fifth release, and then I was steadily getting them out. I was starting to get bored with my style. I was starting to get bored of everything because I knew I had this whole system in place, and I could easily, at least in my head, I could pretty much easily produce a piece of music and get a label to sign it and release it. Okay. The problem with that is I was bored with myself. I was bored with the style that I was doing. And it wasn't challenging anymore. And you start like thinking, I want to go back to the old days when I was struggling. I like that fight. I like that battle of trying to do something. But then you also think it was also quite painful as well, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to completely reinvent the wheel. So it's quite a confusing place to be as an artist for a bit, being bored, because you have something that works, and they do say don't break, don't fix what isn't broken, right? But the other thing, being an artist, which we all are, we do want to evolve, don't we? And you want to evolve, but you don't want to completely destroy what you've done. You don't want to take that step back. And that's the problem, because you always want to be making your connection and being operational, at least in the public eye, of doing stuff and releasing stuff. So boredom can be, although in a way it sounds a bit trivial, like, oh, right, I'm bored, I don't know what to do, and then it'll pass and then it'll go. This is the kind of boredom, where you're thinking about it and you're thinking, I need to do something. Oh, sorry, just having a scratch on my foot. Right there, that's better. Hello, Sean, how are you doing? So, yes, it's a kind of boredom that sort of weighs you down, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm bored of myself. What is, what's life got to offer me musically? And I can't keep going on like this, doing the same thing, unless you status quo, you see. Now, there's a different thing. But they mustn't have got bored of money and ignored music, I don't know. But they kind of played, they got away with the same 3 chords, didn't they? And did handsomely well out of it. Interestingly enough, though, with them, I remember watching like earlier videos of them in the 60s, and they were very progressive. They were like a Pink Floyd. What I was listening to was something that reminded me of Pipe at the Gates of Dawn. But anyway, it's another thing. Right. So I think for me, one of the problems I had early on, which I remember, was the template. So the template, the studio environment that I was in. When I'm talking about the studio environment, I mean then I was producing upstairs in my dining room and releasing music from there. I wasn't back to the bedroom or in my other sort of environment, which was a cupboard, believe it or not. I was upstairs, doing music, and I had this template that I could really quickly sort of knock an idea out, and it would be of a certain style that I needed. It would be half mixed. It would do a lot of things for me without thinking, which was brilliant. But it needed to change. It also became a creative straitjacket. As soon as I wanted to think outside of that box and do anything that was a slightly different version of what I was doing within that genre or a subgenre, if I wanted to go from at the time, like, so future house music, and then I was getting interested in maybe sort of more tech house, but then the environment didn't really serve me that well, so I needed to change that environment. But then if I had, I would change the template to the tech house environment, and then I'd be sort of stuck there. So what I want, and I didn't want to have a thing where a situation where I had a template or a startup where it kind of dictated to me the genre that I was working in, because I like the freedom of being able to cross genres. So I just needed something that was very neutral, and I think that's quite a little. It's quite a big ask to try and sort of come up with that. But you also want something that's going to challenge you, that's going to make you feel sort of excited about what you're doing. So trying to figure ways of changing your environment. So when we look at my environment, my template now, which I'm not bored of, but then again, it's highly rich in challenge, right? When we think about it, because the first thing with me is I was getting bored of just coming in and slamming synths down all the time, because it wasn't that challenging. In the end, I was just, there was good days and bad days, but fundamentally I was thinking, same synths, and then I was just getting any synth, and I think I'm bored of synths, I think. Because it's MIDI, it's very controlled. It has a different. It brings out a different mindset for me. In terms of the machine and my creative process, the way I judge quality was different as well, and I wanted to have a look at that as well, the way I was thinking about my music. So we have my environment here now, and there's a couple of things I've always sticked with. So rather than trying different drum machines out, or like what I was doing was just using like different samplers, like for each drum hit. So that would be a different sampler for a different drum hit, which was good in one ways for arrangement, not so great in other ways. And one way was like the versatility in getting sounds together wasn't great. So you tend to like stick with the same sounds quite a bit once it was set up. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to like change and just add different like drum sounds, because when you're like not inspired and you're just like, I just want to play something different, having something where you can just quickly change presets and have different drum kits that you've been building is brilliant. And that's what EXO does for me. So if you can imagine, earlier on, what I'd have to do is I'd have to go over here, and you could be organised, with your packs or whatever. So I've got my go-to McLaughlin and Hutch sort of hits, and they're all my kick drums. So I would drag things out of there, but that's very much everything that I've done before. Otherwise, I've got to go to my packs, and then let's say I wanted to go to Chillwave, click on Chillwave. I'm starting to go through like folders of stuff, drums, and I want my session to be in like a performance, and it's not, is it? It's just, Right, okay, I'll pick that kick. And then drop it in, then do the beat, then find a hi-hat, then find a snare, then find a clap, then so that's a bit slow and not instant because I want to move towards performance. Why do I want a performance? Because I'm not thinking, I'm in flow more, and therefore I'm more entertained and not bored. I've never got bored of a performance. It's just something you got to do, isn't it? So having an environment that evokes me to be more in flow, more performance mode, is going to get me away from the editor. You see, doing something like that is the editor, isn't it? We're only human. Oh, is that the snare I want? Well, I've never listened to that. Oh, it's got a nice round thing, but I'm not sure about it. No, I'll just see if there's something better than that. Oh, no, that's not right. Oh, I could have that with that, though. And you see the problem, right? It's just getting stuff together and just making something is what we want to do. Gramps is saying something really good here, because here's a good thing. Wouldn't it be a good creative exercise not to use any drum track at all or put it in last? Yes, and I have periods of doing this, Gramps, not for a while though. So a really good exercise to do when you're learning to splurge, right? And I haven't done this one for a while. But it's something everybody can do, right? It's just think about, right, when you're making music, what's the least amount of music you need to make to create a splurge, to make something that you can have an opinion on later, enough to decide whether you want to carry it on forward, whether you want to take it forward, run an investigation on it, if it, grow it, grow the idea, as Rick Rubin would say. He calls his splurges seeds. I quite like seeds. I'm so used to saying splurge, it's very difficult for me to I would like to call them seeds too, But, to run a discovery session, to water your idea and grow it into something, what is the least amount of music you need to hear? So for me, I would just need to hear bass and some sort of melody. I could sit in the room, couldn't you, with a bass player, doing, 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 and then on a guitar. I go, yeah, we're good. That's a tune. I think I'm going to come back to that. So that's a really good one, Gramps. Thinking about the least amount of music, and drums wouldn't feature in that because unless it was a type of thing that I was doing, like some melodic drum thing, I wouldn't need the drums for the music that I'm doing. Because I can imagine what they are later. That's more of a design thing, isn't it? In a way, once I've got because the bass and the guitar are going to contain the rhythm. So when I come to working on that idea later, I'm going to know what that is. So really, bass and melody and the rhythm that's generated from those things are the things I can get excited about to know if I am taking an idea forward. And the good thing about that is you can just sit right and you can do or chords and a melody or whatever. You can sit and do tons and tons and tons of those splurges. And a good way to practice that is just in one project, just doing that very thing, just knocking out bass lines and melodies in one project till you actually till an idea starts to click with you. And then you can develop that and then splurge further on that. So that's a good thing to do. And of course, changing your overall creative practice is a great way to bust boredom. So, just sitting there and going, right, well, I'm gonna use limitations like that is brilliant. So that's a really good one, Gramps. If you've got any more limitation boredom busters, do let us know. So good stuff, that. Back to over to our template. So EXO's great. Because that's how I see my hard drive. I can see all of my one-shots very easily. It's all color-coded. So no flicking through folders. So that's good, isn't it? So I can cover a wide sonic range, in fact, literally the universe, according to this, of my sample library. And of course, it's really easy to filter things down. So, you could select, if you're going on Splice, and you go, right, well, I've just been on Splice, and there's our chill wave again. And I've got my chill wave sample pack, really liked it. I got all of it. And, you can see just that sample pack there, it's color coded. If you want just kicks, you can just highlight kicks and it'll just give you the kicks. If you want the snares, it'll just give you the snares, claps. There isn't any claps. Mustn't have claps in chill wave. Hi-hats, somewhere here. Percussion, probably don't bother with percussion much. So yeah, and then that'll just lead you. So that saves a lot of time and allows us to get into flow quicker. I mean, the other thing about this as well is that you can build your template so it's ready to go, and so you can just drop your samples in. And it's standalone, so if you were just, on the move quickly and you just wanted to quickly make a drum beat, you could. And then it's there for you to just flick on and then just play along to. So environment change is, a big one for me. Yeah, I mean, any DAW would be great. The good thing about Ableton is when I'm in the session view, it is very easy to chop and change ideas, because each idea, you can, you have a little play thing, don't you? So I can have multiple versions of this, so that could be one, and then this one, maybe have something different. And then maybe we go to something different. So you can chop and change ideas out. I've never heard of Loopy Pro, no. So yeah, changing environments, using creative limitations is a really good one. And again, my environment really is the one that changes the most, is, the inside the door is Ableton Live. That's where I do things. Outside, I tend to not have anything that's going to distract me. So everything's moved, as we know. I keep that fairly minimal. It's just the keyboards, push, and a guitar. And that is it. Okay, so moving on. I'll probably dot about a bit. There'll be something I've forgotten about that anyway. Experimenting with new techniques. Right, well, this is a thing, isn't it? Right, so there was actually a guy on yesterday, wasn't it? Because he said he was 48 years old. All right, I wonder if he's on today. If you're on today, hello. And it was that thing about being too old to do things. I don't see the age thing. I just see music and what I want to do. I'm a bit of a Terminator like that, so I'm not bothered. I would like to think that whether my arms and legs are all falling off with age, I'll still keep going with music, yeah? And I'll still try and use those limitations to create something, because, as you know, creativity, and you have to trust me on this one, creativity lives in limitations, doesn't it? But sometimes we do have to expand, all right? Sometimes it can become too limiting, and we have certain needs that we have to fulfill, all right? And bearing in mind that whole idea of, the why do I do something, how, and, why, what, and how. There's lots of hows. We're all talking about hows on YouTube and things like that. But, being an artist, it's why do you want to do something? And that has to appear in your creative process. And that why, for me, is, it comes from the music. And music is this spiritual entity that I tune into. And sometimes to tune into it and to do and to fulfill music requires me to learn new techniques. So we had a phase where coming back into being a shred player, so I kind of got my picking technique back. So the technique came back. I was starting to jam, the improvisations are getting better. And then, and obviously there's a Troy Grady stuff now, so I was able to like finally have some confirmation on how to tackle that inside, how to really dial in the inside picking motion, which was something that was always a bit of a dark area. So that was amazing, the inside picking motion. Troy Grady analysing the very video that that I've wasted lots of time on trying to do, which was the descending Vinnie Moore. It was the descending but ascending groups of sixes that Vinnie Moore did on the Coca-Cola advert. And or was it the Pepsi advert? It was the Pepsi advert. So that run, all right, I have to get up early, so I must go to bed. Have a great stream. No, thank you. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy watching later, Tim. Great having you on here. So, I was able to kind of work that out. But anyway, fundamentally, my technique was kind of getting to a point, and then I was getting bored of what I was doing. So I think the first thing I was doing was just had a look at what I was doing, harmonically speaking, melodically on a guitar. And I was very much sort of like 3 notes per string, Paul Gilberty kind of shred guy, and not that great at sort of like pentatonic. I mean, I did do pentatonic stuff, but it was all 3 notes, so I could shred on it. And I wasn't really using it. I was using pentatonics, but I wasn't really using it as a framework to improvise, and that was the first thing. So I realised that, like, if I want to be really melodic, what I need to do is I need to use the framework of a pentatonic scale. So I kind of flipped my thinking. That was the first thing, and that actually radically changed how I did things and how I approached things, and just immediately, just by doing that, was more melodic, But I wasn't that versed in sort of playing those sort of shapes, although I did know them. So there was a lot of practice in doing that, and then obviously I wanted to really get I wanted to have my legato really built into those pentatonic scales. In a way that I could easily get to from my melodic ideas. So there was a couple of ways that I started to freshen things up, right? But then you get bored of that as well, and then that's where the real sort of radical changes started to happen. Then it was like, right, you do these things, and then I realised that to play the things that I wanted to play, I needed to be able to play more sort of outside the box in a way, but inside it. And that required me to be able to play off the fly, just really odd numbers of notes on strings. It's like 3s and 2s and 1s, and just not having that. I didn't want that barrier, that physical barrier, stopping me from going from one place on a guitar to another. So, the first of that was happening was I was starting to look at blues players, actually, and how, because they do a little cheaty economy motion, don't they? Like Eric Johnson and stuff like that. It's economy picking, really. They're not cheating. It's dialed into the style properly, but it's very, very subtle, and you don't really notice it. And I don't, like, for some reason, I never thought of like Joe Bonamassa or Eric Gales as something, or Richie Kotzen as like economy pickers, but they are really, and they do, like, the 2 note per string descending fifths, where you're alternate picking, and then but to go back on yourself, you have to do a down down to start the lick again, and that's to get over that inside motion. So it keeps you kind of flowing in the same direction when you're string crossing. So that was the start of it, and then I realised, oh, that's quite good, okay, and I realised the benefits of that. And I'm trying to remember, and my sweep picking was starting to develop. So I'm doing a lot of like 2-1-2 patterns, and then I wanted that to be more aggressive. Legato means playing fast but clean, not slurring between notes. No, legato is slurring between notes. Hammer-ons and pull-offs is legato. I think I associate it more with the pull-off bit, because now in modern guitar playing we recognise the hammers only technique, which was an Alan Holdsworth thing. So he didn't like the legato or the pull-off bit apparently, and he liked to just try and have hammers only. So yes, that's just legato, left hand technique, minimal kind of picking going on. So yes, and then what I was wanting to do is, like, everything I could do legato on, I wanted to be able to pick. Okay, because at the same time, when I was doing the lives, people were picking up on my legato technique and thinking, "Oh, right, like Hutch does legato, right? So he's the legato guy." And because of that, I thought, "Oh well, as everybody's recognising me as that, even though I do pick, I'm going to do lots of that, aren't I? Those big, explosive, cascading groups of notes." So I was doing more of that, and actually, before I even got to the picking thing, that's the idea of it, because I wanted to be able to pick the kind of weird, odd note groupings that I was using when I was doing legato. And of course, I was doing a lot of hammers only, which just meant I could freely cross strings in whatever note groupings I felt like. And there was a lot of like 2-1-2 stuff going on there. When I say 2-1-2, that means playing 2 notes on one string and then 1 on another, 2 on a 1, and it's like a symmetrical pattern like that. But anyway, I wanted to be able to pick that, and then that was the start of like introducing more picking style into an economy motion. And then eventually I just thought, right, well, that's good, I want more. And then I needed more notes in my arpeggios, believe it or not. So I have like this thing where I do like 3-1-3 on an arpeggio, and you can extend an arpeggio. I've made a rule that I'm not going to play, I have to describe things. When I do an arpeggio, it's like 3 notes on one string, and then 1 on another, then 3 notes and 1, then 3, and it starts on the 5th string. And that way it allows you to extend your arpeggio to 13ths, so you can have big it's almost like a scale in a way. But that pattern allows you to come up with really interesting combinations of notes and almost improvise on the arpeggio quite freely, like a scale. And it's also a great way, really easy to add chromaticism into it. So I wanted to be able to pick all of that. And the only way to do like the 3 and the 1 and the 3 and to be, in my head, successful at doing that was to learn to economy pick. So there was a whole, for my style, for my guitar playing to grow and just have a technique where it was more invisible, then the economy motion was the thing to do for me, without a doubt. So I had to get onto it really, really quickly, and I tell you what, I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored for those months at all. I learned that technique quick, because the problem I had with doing such a ridiculous feat was I was basically saying to myself, I'm going to completely change. And I don't think it was as bad as this part. This would have been belief, but at the time I was going into this going, right, I'm going to completely change the core of all of my technique that I've used since I was doing shredding. So we're talking like very young, 12. When I was starting like getting the Yingwi and that kind of stuff. So I was starting to, in a way, undo that. But the thing is, right, with anybody who's thinking about doing economy motion, really, you have to be good at alternate picking as well, because you can't 100% do economy picking all the time. You're always going to be an alternate picker as well. There's still picking angles to do. You're still doing those angles with the economy pick. So they do like both things play a role. Just obviously the economy picking side is heavier. I'm more heavier on that than I am the alternate picker. And I do find, if I don't practice it, I do find outside picking motion like a bit difficult. But anyway, so I learned to do economy picking, and I needed to get that into my style fast. And off I went, and I did that. And I wasn't bored, because I needed to do what I was doing literally within 2 weeks. I had to be economy picking. I remember the benchmark for where my progression was doing McLaughlin and Hutch Live, so going on there and doing some economy picking. I mean, it was I was economy picking, certainly doing that where I could, but there was lots of errors and things like that, which was great because it gave me the wins, problems, and opportunities I needed. I could see under pressure how much of that technique I could use. I could see that when I was playing where I was going wrong, and then I was easily able to address those issues. But it took me from like not sitting in the bedroom studio playing, but actually getting out there and doing something. So learning a new technique opens up lots of doors. And because having that new technique meant there was a new way to sequence notes, meant there was more creative opportunities, more interesting ways that I could express myself over my music. So that was a really good upgrade. And it didn't stop there as well, because in the background of that, I was starting to do hybrid picking, which I found really difficult. And actually, it's the one thing on guitar where I've parked it up and gone, I can't be arsed with this, and then come back to it. And eventually I came back to it and got it cracked to a point where now I use it. It's built into my technique, and I absolutely love it. And I remember that point actually, because I think with the hybrid picking, it's a more of an intermittent technique. You're alternate picking and using a bit of it, and then I realised, well, it's just the reason I'm struggling with it is because I'm not using it in the everyday enough. And I thought, right, when babies talk, right, they just make noises, don't they? And they're not the most pleasant of noises, but we don't tell them to be quiet because they can't do it. They need to experiment with the voices and what's capable, and then they're surrounded by expert teachers who help them. So, again, hybrid picking, put my hand up. I did have to run to Rick Graham, who was a brilliant teacher, and he put me on the straight and narrow a couple of times. Actually, it took 2 lessons with him doing this. He must have thought, what, have I got to explain this again? But anyway, I just didn't get it. And actually, the reason I didn't get it, because I understood what it was simply that I wasn't using it enough. So I just went, right, you know what, make a rule. I'm not going to do any picking, and I'm going to have to, everything I do, I'm going to have to get about with an economy. And literally that day, it was cracked. I just made myself do it. Also, I got that from that idea that kind of rang that bell in my head was a Richie Kotzen interview, because he decided that he would use a bit of economy, like hybrid picking at a gig. And then eventually the next gig, he decided he didn't even have a plectrum, and he tried to play what he was doing just with his hands. That's it. You just got to jump off a cliff, haven't you? So, yeah, that is it. Experimenting with new techniques, so that opened a new, and obviously it doesn't stop there with the guitar playing. There's all the new techniques in the world that you can use in your music productions. What I tend to do though is I tend to go with compositional stuff quite a lot, so I tend to lean for those techniques, or new games or splurge games. The stuff that I use in my coaching sessions, like when you come in for a coaching session with me, I have we play games. In other words, I call them games because it's not like you could call it an exercise if you wanted, but it's not, because at the end of the day, when you're being coached by me and we're on a Zoom call, everybody's working on their own individual music. We don't listen to each other's music. You're working on your own thing, and then what I'll do is I give you some different approaches that you can use. And part of that is it's a new thing, so it's going to keep you fresh. You're not going to be bored. And of course, like all these different things that you learn are tools, techniques that allow you to become unstuck. So when you're sitting here and people don't know about your automatic music machine or what's going on in your head or the fact that you're being coached, hopefully you sound like a genius. You sound like one of these clever producers who just know instinctively what to do in any situation. But it's all, it's coached, isn't it? It's taught. Sorry, the camera goes blurred because it's, that's really good, isn't it? I need to get a new case, though. So I've got to watch waving my hands about. Setting creative challenges, that's a good one. So often I'll do this. So I've had a few ones that I really like. I really like doing turbo cycling of. Oh, you like that colour? Yeah, it's kind of. I'm trying to colour coordinate here. It's got a bit of a Korean look at this, like, hasn't it? With the kind of reddy, pinky, blue sort of thing. J-pop, K-pop look. It's clean. Yeah, I like the cleanness. All right, setting creative challenges. So really good. So for me, turbo cycling, if anything, I like to collect a load of tracks, right? And I like to bounce from one track to another in short sessions, depending on where they are in the creative process. But this can happen anywhere, sort of. And I always refer to the machine, okay, because that's creativity modularized. So when I'm splurging, that's a different muscle to, say, the muscles that you use creatively when you're doing releasing. But when you're splurging, like challenges, I'll go, right, I'm going to do like 100 splurge challenge and try and do that in a month. 100 splurges in a month for, I've done the 102 weeks, which was demanding to say the least. Or do 30 in a week or whatever. Like having those targets really keeps you engaged, and it really gets you out of like the quality judgments that you may have. So setting a challenge like that's really, really good. The same with releasing. I did like a little electronic album kind of thing, and I had everything in release, and then I did some turbo mixing, which I really, really enjoyed, because that was like a little experiment I was doing, where it got you just to focus on doing the big problems and not even bothering with the smaller problems, and it worked great. And it also got you consistent mix quality across an album's worth of material, and all that was doing half-an-hour sessions on each track, and then it kind of reduced to about 10 minutes and sometimes 5 minutes. So you're just doing a bit on each track and then moving on. So that was really good. And of course, you could set time limits for everything as well, so you knew there was a certain time limit. So because the actions were concrete binary, so a yes, no, I could say, right, to turn the snare drum down 10 seconds, to EQ the hi-hat 30 seconds. So, and you could try and add those up and then try and do all those jobs and beat the clock. And then we can think of games like that throughout the creative process. So we can turbo cycle. So in Discovery, we can do that cycling. We can create a new section for each song that we have that's contrasting. And again, we can set time limits, and deadlines are really good. I've mentioned this before. When we have habits, habits are great, but habits can be a little bit flimsy. Okay, and easy to break. And if you break them enough, you're back to the beginning almost. And then it's like, oh no, why did I do that? And you feel really bad. So when you feel like that, always have a think about what you can do to set some sort of accountability or an event. So deadlines and events are really good. So for me, I've set myself events. Like I want to be able to talk more, okay, on these streams. Because I do spend a lot of time ignoring people. I'm either like ignoring people doing music, right? Which I can't help because I'm in flow, but at least you get to see that. And then talking a bit, or I'm fully talking and there's no music, right? And I just want to get better at sort of the presenting sort of game. So I thought this would be a really good way to do that, and also get more people interested and in sort of the coaching aspect, because a lot of what I'm talking about, it's in a game stuff. It's a mindset, isn't it? And it's not the norm for musicians to be talking like this all the time. This kind of stuff, mindset stuff's quite hard to find on the net, I think. And it's like getting that trusted information. But you guys are here, and obviously you know that it works for me because of all the music that I've released and stuff, and the stuff I do with Thomas. And you'll have watched me grow from absolutely chaotic crap channel to something a little bit better like this, So you've watched that progression. But I'm digressing here, aren't I? So setting creative challenges is really important. So my challenge is to have these things that I want to talk about. and come on here and talk about them and do nothing else. And just, if I've got nothing to say, get used to sitting bored like this, get comfortable with it. All right. Because that's a big thing, isn't it? Just getting comfortable in the room, not having to say anything, but then not looking like depressed. Yeah. So, creative challenges, very important. Reinforce habits with events and deadlines and accountability. Right now, okay, Kevin's made. Oh, you've done a splurge. Well done. Now, if anybody wants to say anything, because I do like the interaction. Helps. Collaboration with others. Woof, that is a good one. So collaborating with others is that's being. I was never that keen, to be honest, in the first place with the McLaughlin and Hutch, but I was bored, and I just thought, right, I've got this music machine that I'm wanting to try out. And again, I was bored. Actually, I was bored from all angles. So I was like, I've done like every genre within Beatport, right? And I was just like, God, this is endless. I can't get old and die like this. God, there must be something else. And I was like that for ages, and then just constantly releasing stuff and just thinking, oh God, there's nowhere to go with this. There's nowhere to go. And then Thomas was like, oh, just, do you fancy doing something? And I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm doing this like house stuff. And then eventually he was like, right, do you want to have a listen to synthwave? I could play some guitar over it. And then I listened to synthwave, and I thought, oh, you know what? That's what I need to do, because I was doing tech house, doesn't really have any melody at all, attitude and bass line and groove. And then I thought, I need a bit of a melody. And this is perfect, and it's a genre I've not really looked at, but very familiar and already close to my heart, because I could hear, like, the thing about synthwave or the stuff I was listening to, and I think I accidentally fell on vaporwave as well. So when I was listening to it, I could hear a lot of my very young childhood in there. So a lot of John Carpenter and things like that, and I thought, oh, like, this is really good. This has got a nostalgia thing going here, and then I kind of got what the music was. I was into it. My heart was there, and then it was just a question of making it. So I wanted melody, and I started making stuff that was more melodic, and then I just knocked something up and sent it to Thomas. And I didn't think guitars would work with like the electronic thing in a way that I thought it would, but he knocked it out of the park, and like I was like, oh, that's really good as well. Now the guitars and the synths work, and they live in perfect harmony. This is brilliant. And then being me, I just like knocked an album up and then sent him it, and then he added his guitars, and then that was it. And then you had McLaughlin and Hutch. Yeah, vaporwave. I really like vaporwave, and it's an interesting thing. There's a great documentary on YouTube about it. How it's this sort of it's like a musical vacuum. It's like a musical non-space, isn't it? It's melancholy. It's lonely. It's described as a place that's neither heaven or hell. But it's this lonely, nostalgic thing. It's bizarre. But yes, I really like vaporwave. And there's lots of, again, boredom, pulling things from other genres and putting them into your own genre is a really good idea. And I suppose that kind of going back to setting creative challenge, there's like the heuristic ideation chart. Do you like that? The heuristic ideation chart. So if you're really bored, what you can do is you can list like lots of different genres on a box, and then you can use on a matrix, like cross them, so you could have jazz with folk, or you could have electronic, whatever subgenre with something else, and then you just number them what you like the idea of, and then you just splurge on each one. Yeah, I forgot about that one. I should do that in one of the groups, the heuristic ideation chart. It's a good one. Yeah. It just sounds good, doesn't it? The heuristic ideation chart. I like the sound. That makes me look like, it makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. Having a fancy name like that. It's just a load of boxes and some numbers. So yeah, collaborate with others, I suppose, in a way, right? If there's nobody else to collaborate, do remixes. Doing remixes is really good as well. When you're starting out, doing the odd remix is a great way to learn and keep things fresh. And obviously, if it's a remix for a competition, I know this guy on here does like Reddit stuff. Then it's imposing deadlines on you as well. You've got to be ready for a deadline, haven't you? And there's also potential for it to do something. So, that's a good thing. So, yeah, do collaborate with others. The only other thing I would say with collaboration, right, is just remember after everything that I've said that you are proactive as you can be and not reactive. So don't end up the person who just ends up engineering the track. Make sure your own creative sovereignty is recognized. So taking breaks and diversifying interests, right? Taking breaks is an interesting one. Technically, I haven't taken a break, all right? I'm still doing music and writing music and all that kind of thing. But I am taking a break from doing music in front of you guys, okay? And it's kind of just allowing me to get my own personal one-to-one connection back with my music, to be honest, which is a really good thing. So I am, in a way, free to waste more time experimenting. I can do a lot of things because then I don't feel like it's only my time that I'm wasting then. And I think it doesn't matter, what situation we're in here. Some things that I do in the studio, like twiddling one dial up and down or something, like, looking for something is incredibly boring for you guys, especially when I don't know what it is that I'm looking for or doing. But it is a necessary part of being a musician, isn't it? It's just having that time to just kind of sit in your studio and just be a bit aimless. And I think that that's important, but I can't, it's just not, honestly, it's just not good television, really. Sorry, because this is a broadcast. Yeah, don't do TV. So technically taking a break and then just replacing what I was doing with something else. So to sit here and talk to you guys, it's slightly, although creative, it's slightly different muscles that I'm exercising here. So, doing something and doing another challenge can really, really help. And diversifying interests is a really interesting one, because I've probably mentioned this before and people probably think, what was he doing? Is that I got to a point before being coached where I was really bored with music. And not only that, I thought I'm, getting past it for some reason. I was in my 20s anyway. Just, it's crazy what you think when you think you're a rock star or something. Anyway, so I decided, and I got a scholarship as well, which was good because that kind of tipped me over the edge. I decided, because there was funding at a local university, to go and do fine art. Of course, me being me, I didn't want to do fine art. I wanted to be on a fine art course and not do fine art. So that was the first thing. That kind of mentality got me on the course. Because they thought, all right, you want to come on a fine art course and not do fine art? Well, that's great, you're in. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted to do something that was doing what I was doing, music, but not in any particular recognizable approach that I was doing it in. So what I decided to do was go on a fine art course and have a look at visual concepts and how they could operate within a musical context. Absolute nuts. So they said, right, we're interested, but you're going to have to go and write this proposal. I wrote a proposal all about taking concepts and using them in music and all this kind of thing. And then went back to the fine art guys, and then they were just like, "Oh, right, yeah, this sounds really good, but we don't understand a fucking word you're on about, really. So we're going to give you this tutor, this music tutor." And it was a guy called John Kefliker, and I'm sure he's got stuff on YouTube, and he was brilliant. Like, he knew everything. He'll be a professor now. But Dr. John Kefliker was great, and he was always, his thinking, like, was always just ahead of the game. He was, very good, great influence on me. And so I had him as my go-to tutor, and he ended up teaching me quite a lot on that course. And as I became confident, it was working. I was pulling concepts from different areas and putting them into my music. And, I ended up specializing in using found sound to create pieces of music. So, and I got that idea. I was quite influenced from this genre of music called music concrete. So music concrete was, what was he called? Pierre Schaeffer would have been the guy, and he the first music concrete was done in a French radio studio, and he recorded a train, and he realised that the tracks made like a rhythmic triplet noise, and he cut that and looped it. So it was all kind of making music by discovery, really, recording things, environmental sounds, and then finding connections, and then making them into a piece of music. But when you record and you capture a piece of music, it's from some sort of social context, so it has a meaning, doesn't it? And if you put that context next to a different context, it can develop into a narrative. So I was really, really drawn to that, because that was like another way of expressing myself outside of like, I'm a bit sad today, I think I'll play some blues. So that was another way that in an extreme way. But I must admit, I did that. I did a master's in that, and it opened lots of doors for me. Actually, it was really good. And then I actually went on and did another one, which is, believe it or not, I'm qualified as a curator. Not that you need a qualification; you just need to be famous, really. But I can, if so, I can run an art gallery. I bet you didn't know that. Not that I ever have or would, but I was interested because I had the reason I did that was because then I had all of this sort of like musical stuff going on with found sound. But the problem is how do you display this? And what I was wanting to do is I was wanting it to be site specific and also in the gallery. So that kind of meant following a certain convention. So I did that. I did curating. It was very, very academic and hard going, and I ended up down a lot of dead ends. But anyway, that's another story. And that covers diversifying interest, seeking inspiration. So seeking inspiration and keeping a sketchbook or a journal. So what we've got to remember is when we're seeking inspiration, that inspiration is all around us. And there's the famous quote by Philip Glass: when does music become music? And this links in with the music concrete thing. When does music become music? Well, music becomes music when we say it's music. So that's great, isn't it? I could be going through a shopping mall and, there might be a broken escalator clicking away, or an elevator or something, and it may do some sort of repetitive noise, and that technically is music, isn't it? And there's this great program now by XLN called Life, and that encourages you to record found sound, goes into a cloud, and you can immediately access it in your studio with their amazing, wonderful sampler. And it's called Life because obviously it's encouraging you to sample life, and it chops it up and makes like really interesting rhythms that you can edit and use in your own music. So, having recording, inspiration-wise, recording found sound's always been a great way to, an exercise that I've used for people to dial in sort of the discovery muscle, from just even starting a splurge. So collecting found sound, right? Because you don't always hear everything that you're recording. And when you take it back to the studio, obviously that sound takes on a different meaning and context, which you're no longer there. You hear it in a different way. And then what appears is usually some sort of musical form. You'll start reading musical patterns in it, creating a loop out of it. And then what you have is you have a musical phrase. And then what a little game is to then write. So if that's the answer, then you can write a question phrase, and then you start to put some music together. But it's that it's that thing of what is the music's trying to tell me to do? What is this found sound? What's the musical content of this found sound? And like, how can I use that? So it's a great way of developing your ear and developing compositional skills, and a great way to find that inspiration, because inspiration is windshield wipers are good for inspiration, absolutely. And then you could have the indicators. Can't do the two things, but there could be something there, absolutely, 100%, with the background of the outside industrial noise. Because everything has a ketone. There's a great book called, another guy, there's Michael Schaefer, who wrote Tuning of the World, and I found that book to be a vital part of what I was doing when I was studying my master's, Tuning of the World, and that's what it is. Like, everything around us, like the cityscape, has what we call a central pitch, a keynote. So there's musical context in pretty much everything, even the sea. The sea fundamentally is just white noise tuned, isn't it? And this book actually talks about because obviously there wasn't any recordings of the sea, and there's an interesting bit about how the Greeks tried to record the sound of the sea through text. Sorry, we're going to get academic here. I'm going to go into lecture mode. So I think that's enough for inspiration, and keeping a sketchbook or a journal. So like, I have a journal here, and it is a journal. So what I like to do with my journal is I like to write down my, the main use for it is my free writing. So whenever I have a problem or something on my head or lacking inspiration, I like to do a 5-minute free write on that, and I might come up with a set of like little headers that I'll write to, but it's unedited writing. But the main go-to one that I do is the wins, problems, opportunities, which I recommend everybody should do. And again, it's unedited. I write down what my wins are. So after this show, I'll be writing down like what the wins were. But I'll also be writing down what the problems are. I mean, things are going quite well, but there's always problems, all right? So I'll free write on what those problems are. Because I see problems as problems, but I don't see problems as something to get depressed about. I see problems as something to get excited about, all right? Because it means, again, that boredom. I've got now something to work on. If I choose to work on it, I know that I'm going to get better at that thing. And doing this talking with you guys, I'm generating problems as well as having wins. I'm generating problems which I have to then overcome. So I'll have to quickly do my wins, problems, opportunities, 5-minute free write, dial them in, come back the next day. And one of the problems was yesterday that actually, although I've been coming on these lives and not really been planning them, that I should plan a little bit. And I thought boredom is going to be quite a difficult one to like talk about, and there'll be the risk of me, if I'm not inspired and a bit tired, of missing things out, so it won't be a very thorough talk. I'll just go on board, so I do this, and then that's the end of it, and then we're just kind of, it's banter. So I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to make sure that there was something of definite value created this time, although fear was really good. I mean, people commented and said, oh, they really liked it, and I suppose at the end of the day, one good thing about not planning it was it kind of came from the heart, a lot of what I was saying yesterday, because it's something that we all suffer from, no matter who we are. So yeah, a sketchbook and a journal, which is kind of, so I do have a sketchbook as well. So I have, like, in the machine, although I don't really use it, there is an ideas column where I'll stick various bits of ideas in. But in general, what I'll do is I'll just type them in on my phone, or I'll use my journal. I tend to want to put those things in a physical physical format. But however, I have experimented with various things in the machine, which have been, I've had some success with, and I do go back to. And one of them is, let's see if I've got it. Hold on a minute. I haven't got it, unfortunately. But I did have a system for kind of collecting ideas, and it was like a style generator thing. Alien Radio. Wherever you are, how is your day? It's going good. It's actually just, the day's just started. This is 7:30 in the morning here in the UK, and it's cold. But it's great to have you on. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to Twitch. But also, I think my favourite platform is YouTube. So if you want to come, hey, thank you. If you want to come over and just subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be great as well. So it's just Tim Hutch, and you'll find me there. I need to get some more subscribers because you can make money on YouTube. I can make a coffee a month if I had that. So yes, Sketchbook and Journal is a good one, especially the free writing. Thank you. Learn and study. So I think at the end of the day, we need to be progressing, don't we? So learning and studying is an important thing. However, having said that, what we need to be careful of is that's not all that we're doing. So when we're learning and studying things, it's because there is a demand in our music that's asking for it. I mean, music is this spiritual entity, right? It's like, and it's a bit like Greek mythology, like being the Greek hero and then God speak. It's music that's telling you to do something. It's going, you know what, right? You hit a brick wall here. You need to upgrade your skills to get any further. And at that point, that's when you're going to ask, well, what is it I'm going to use? What am I going to overcome this problem? What am I going to do? And that's when we start learning new skills, because there's a demand there, and it's going to open up creative doors. So, like me, upgrading my guitar technique, learning to improvise better using pentatonic scale as a framework, or hexatonic scale as a melodic framework, upgraded me. It gave me creative limitations and new things to learn all at the same time. So yes, learning and studying is important, but providing that there is a need for it, because we're all very good at learning skills and kind of not using it. And YouTube is, as I always say when I'm bashing it up, is full of like the hows and like horrendous stuff where people are going, if you're not doing this, you're not doing it correct, or like things like nobody's talking about this. I tell you what, nobody's talking about my channel very much apart from you guys. I can prove it because the numbers are so low. So that's good, and that proves that this is genuine information. So, and I'm quite happy with just having a nice small community that's into this kind of thing, to be fair. So learning and studying, if there is a demand, I need to speed up now because I've got to go soon. Mindfulness and meditation is really good, okay? So before a studio session, if I remember, okay, and In fact, I run a mindfulness group actually on a Tuesday morning, believe it or not. But anyway, that's another story. All right, thanks, Kevin. So, like, for the mindfulness thing, I was told that, like, meditating would improve my creativity. And the ego Tim went, I don't need meditation. That's for people who just, not for me. I just go in hard. So, just as a challenge, because then it takes a challenge, I was challenged by my coach, just try meditation for 1 week and see what it's like. And all you're going to do is you're just going to sit in front before your studio session, and you're going to sit and you're going to focus on your breathing. So the rise and fall of your chest, in and out, and any random distracting thoughts that are there, don't get on board with them, all right? Don't get on board with them and let them go. And that's what I did, and it took some practice. God, the distracting thoughts that came up, woof. But weirdly enough, literally after I did that first meditation, I noticed my music session, I was more in flow, and it was like easy. It was just smooth. It was like having the cogs all oiled. So that meditation was, just doing, and that's my main one, 5 minutes, just up and down of the chest if you can do it. Nothing there, no guided meditation, just you in it. And why is that like a really good practice? And I'll tell you why. Because it's training your brain to focus in on one thing. The multitasking isn't a thing, right? When you multitask something, what you're doing is you're just halving your bandwidth, all right? So if you're doing 4 things, it's just... you're just downgrading the bandwidth that you have to do the one thing that you should be doing first really, really well. So, what's that noise? It's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so basically that's what we're doing there. I'd love to know what that noise is. Typical. Oh, there's this weird rattle on the mic. Anyway, we're coming to a end here. So, mindfulness meditation. So, yeah, try the meditation thing, and obviously, read the inner game of music, because we have an outer game and an inner game, and I think we can get very, very obsessed with the outer game, which can lead to purchasing of musical equipment that we don't need. So do have a look at the Inner Game Music by Barry Greenway, I think. And then physical activity, so keeping yourself moving. So I used to, I don't know because I got injured my Achilles tendon, but one thing I will say about the physical activity is it's a great way to briefly get away from everything. So I would love jogging, no music on, no nothing, and it's like meditation, and I could think, and then lots of things would come to my mind of how I can move creative projects on, and real clarity would happen through that exercise, through doing exercise. So exercise does bring insight to problem solving. Right, that's me finished saying what I've got to say. So that was slightly more of a planned thing today, that I actually gave myself a few subjects to talk about. So hopefully that's been useful to you guys. And that's boredom. So if you're bored, really bored, you can go watch me talking about this. Solved your boredom. Right, does anybody want to ask anything? Beyond useful, thank you, Kevin. Beyond useful, that's going up. Beyond useful. Brilliant. Very useful, thanks, Tim. Excellent. So tomorrow we're talking about skills, all right? And what I want you to do tomorrow, right, because you can help me out, because skills is... Okay, say the question. That's good, Kevin. Random off-topic question is fine. So I'm doing skills tomorrow. How are the vocal tracks coming along? Well, Sharon's going to have to record, hopefully, at the weekend. But soon. Okay, now, it's skills. I'm going to be talking about skills tomorrow, right? And my take on skills. Oh, it's Wednesday tomorrow, so it isn't tomorrow. Thank you, Graham. I'll be talking about skills on Thursday, okay? So, skills... Yes, I'll send the group video again. Okay. Yes, so I'll be talking about skills, and again, it's of equal proportion to focus, habits, environments, decisions, fear, boredom, and community. These are, if you think of it like a pizza, equal slices. We'll have our skill focus. So, really, I think to dial this in, I'll talk about that, but I would like to hear from you guys about your take on skills. So, tell me about what skills you're thinking about learning, and if there are any skills that you want me to show you on Thursday morning. So, obviously, I'm sat here, tooled up with every plug-in you can imagine. I've got my guitar at hand. And obviously we've got coaching, we've got a full complex of stuff going on here. So I think it's a great opportunity for you guys, and I'm looking at the camera, for everybody there, if you want to ask something and you want to find something out and get an accurate answer and not have to troll YouTube for a skill thing, have a think about it, because I'll be asking and I will demonstrate or do my best to answer those, or try and signpost you in the direction that I think will be useful if I don't know, right? So it's a great opportunity to do that, okay? So I really want to hear that, and you've got 48 hours to think about it. So that would be amazing if you do that. And it can be anything. Remember, skills are, I'm expecting it's going to be guitar and like things like that. But actually, if there's any, if there's anything in anything that I've said and you're wondering how to practice it, then that would fall into the skills category. So I'd be happy to help with anything like that, or just even the skill of how to get started doing anything, or how to finish something. So that's what you've got Thursday. So do make your lists and hit me with those, okay? Right, and I think that's me done for today, everybody. Thank you for dialing in. And it's Nova, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad it's all helpful. It's brilliant, because that's what it's here for, to help everybody, because I know it's such a struggle, Isolation to aspiration, that's what I'm all about, helping people do that. And we all need that, because it's being a lone musician in your studio with just you, it's a lonely game, isn't it? Full of uncertainty. So I think things like this have massively helped me, because at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. So, I have to learn to overcome the problems, I should say. Well, like problems. Anyway, guys, thank you, and I'll see you all Thursday morning. Having said that, there is a live on Wednesday evening, but it won't be anything like this. I'm going to be getting the guitar out and having a bit of a shred and doing something. Okay, so I'll see you Wednesday evening for skills chat. That's going to be Thursday. All right then. See you then. Bye.